Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast. I am Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
I am Ginny Oliva Smith, and I'm so happy to be able to be here with Amanda and joining you guys today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, you know, if you're new here, if you are just finding us, we're so glad that you have stumbled across us somehow, that beautiful algorithm that YouTube or whatever has directed you towards us. Then you're probably interested in some of the stuff that we're talking about. Our show is about how, a little quick recap, we haven't talked about it in a little while. We call our subtitle is All In on Love, Loss, and Connection. And we talk about how human emotion serves to connect us or disconnect us from ourselves and then others, because it all starts with connection to self.
And we're all searching for it.
Yeah, because it seems to have been lost, right? Like we were born or in the afterlife, coming back, we have this real deep connection, and then life happens, programming things, society, messages, and we just kind of separate. And
Exactly.
you know, if you guys don't know, I mean, this happened after COVID. Like Ginny and I were just so like disturbed, you know, by the division. And so much of that division is created by fear, very intentional fear.
Absolutely.
And that was a great segue. I didn't even know I was going to go there. But today's show is about fear.
You see how that happens?
Just happens. So today we're going to talk about fear. And, you know, I was actually last night, I was just somewhere with some friends, and one friend gave a person a card, and it said fearless. I was kind of chuckling to myself, because what I wanted to talk about today on the show is how fearless is, I think, a little bit misunderstood. I think when we say be fearless, because yes, I believe that's the goal. I believe that we strive to be fearless. But for me personally, I don't ever want to completely get rid of my fear.
Right.
It's like a messenger.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
It's absolutely a messenger. And again, hardwired back, right? We talk about that all the time, but it's in our DNA. It's when we really needed to be afraid of things and it mattered, you know, like to survive, fear definitely can be something that was definitely its purpose, I think, in helping us to continue to evolve, because you have to survive by not being eaten by a lion or whatever the situation was. Not, you know, just being aware, oh, look, there's a tornado in the sky, weather's changing, it's a little scary. I think that it was definitely meant to be there for that, which causes evolution. So yeah, you're right. I think it's a very clear marker on our roadmap, right? For sure.
Yeah. And for me, it usually starts with anxiety. That's how I usually can tap in, and or resentment, pissed off at something.
Yeah.
Right. That typically then gives me anxiety because I am, you know, at risk. There's a threat to my personal safety, just like you're saying. Like in our very first episode, we talk about this often, but it was so great. We were talking about, you know, having to like spear the buffalo and like, you know, and it's just not like that today, but we're still functioning from this old programming. It's cellular, right?
Yeah.
It's in our DNA. It's stuff that's why the world is so difficult. It's a very difficult place to be right now, because we're shifting on such a collective, universal level that we're feeling it inside, because we're creating our reality, right?
And all while we have all of these added energies around us, even in just technology alone, that we're infiltrated constantly. Like literally our nervous systems are constantly being bombarded like a fire hose, because we have all of this information, all these all this, I mean, audio. We're right here on the podcast, which we're grateful for, right? We're so grateful for that. But the amount of information we have coming at us at the pace that it is, absolutely, I think creates anxiety, because there's a lot that, you know, back in the day, it was like you got your news twice a day or once a day, in the morning and the evening, and it was on 3. We're getting it all. So you pick up your phone and you see a headline. Oh, look, mass shooting. Oh, wow. You know, like, or whatever the deal is. I think, so that part of fear, it's like not maybe the same things that we used to have fear about, but it's still there, and it's constantly triggered in the world constantly.
Because fear gets the blood pumping, you know, it makes you feel something.
Oh yeah.
And we like to feel something. And for some reason, that lower energy we've talked about is just denser. That falling into that fear place is just denser. And then it makes us want to scramble to solve a problem.
Oh God.
right? And we feel really good when we can solve the problem. But in the meanwhile, the fear, that is very purposefully presented to us, put out there 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
is to make you pick a side on something. I have to fear these people, or I have to fear this thing, or this company, or whatever it is that now I have to like take a side, and then that's going to separate you from me. And that, again, we talk about it a lot, and it's because I really like to drive it home. That's done very purposefully to get us to either vote for somebody or to buy something that we think is going to eliminate. Yeah. They want our money. They want our time. They want our vote. People are just constantly trying to grab it. And that's the thing what you were talking about before. Is this constant, like, just being pulled. Like, there's just so much information coming at us 24/7. And it is pulling us away from that peaceful place inside that is going to then make us feel empowered.
Right. We'll make we are very much in a place where we're disconnected from that organic sense of knowing. You know, it's the same way like I just heard this the other day that they were saying we're the only species that does this, that we live in our brain is able to live in more than one time frame. Like we're living in the past, we're living in the future, we're living in right now. They were talking about if a deer is getting chased by a bear and literally, you know, barely escapes with its life and heart's pumping and everything's crazy, within 20 minutes, the nervous system of that deer is back to regulated, normal, feeling fine. We are like, but you don't know what happened to me when I was 6. Like, and you don't know.
No.
We literally live it. Yeah. And it's real. It's right there. We're literally holding it as if it just happened. The same can be brought up. And it's not, we're only a species that does that. Only one. And it's pretty fascinating because and we talk about this a lot too, that when you're afraid, it's an incredible force. Fear is incredibly powerful when we let it. You can move masses of people, like you're saying. You make somebody afraid enough of something, you can move entire masses of people, whether just in their thinking or whatever it might be, in their spending habits, in all of those things. You know, you're going to watch this news network instead of this one. Well, guess what? There's people buying time on that news network, and they're paying to buy time for your attention, for my attention.
Fear is a marketing tactic. Like,
it's
one of the becoming marketing tactic, and it's really messed up because they're playing on our emotions, and it's making us sick. It's making us sick. I think the book similar to what you're talking about, the deer. I think it's Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. I think that might be the name of it.
That sounds amazing.
It's the same. I believe that's the name of it. I'll look it up and put the correct name in the notes. But it's the same concept. That there's a threat, and then it's gone, and they're fine, and they're, you know, eating in the grass, and you know, they're doing right along, you know, and maybe it comes down, I don't know, like biologically or physiologically in our brains, maybe our brains are wired a little bit differently, but for the sake of this conversation, it's like, okay, so I always say fearlessness is a myth, right? So like, we know there's forces out there that are trying to get us to, you know, side with you or not. I mean, like, look at this war, right? This Israel-Palestine war. Yeah. I mean, look at what some people have turned to believing out of fear, you know, and supporting terrorists. Like, are you kidding me? Are you like, do you not see like what is going on here? But anyway, it's so we understand that that's what it's doing. It's dividing us and stuff. But I think the purpose of our conversation, it's like, we don't want the fear there for those reasons, but maybe it does still serve us in some way. Like I said, my fear lets me know where I need growth, where I need to, right? Like where I need to trust more, what I need to let go of, how I can set boundaries.
Huge with boundary setting for me. Huge, like immediate, like an alarm. It's literally like an alarm. And I find it, I mean, I'm able to identify it like sooner now than I did say when I was younger, but absolutely. It's one of those like, okay, it's, you know, it's the same. It's just the message being sent. It's the message being sent to your body. Like, hey, stop and pay attention. Something has shifted. Like, we need to be prepared, whether it be to grow, to protect ourselves, to I don't know. And a lot of the time, our body has the same reaction now with that fear, but it's, you know, it might be something internal. It might be just us, might be the judgment we're having on ourselves. Holy crap. I can't,
Oh yeah.
so many times I've sat there where I'm, you know, feeling insecure about something or trying to figure out my place in a situation. And absolutely that fear kicks in like, oh shit, you know, and you're wondering what's going to happen or doubting yourself, you know, and it's like, there's that time.
Uh-huh.
Let me stop. It's like immediate take you and stop you in your tracks. Like stop, look
Yep.
around, pay attention. What is happening? You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of times we get consumed though in that stopping.
For days and days, sometimes I
Right?
can get wrapped
Right.
up in that. I've gotten better because now I just identify it quicker, you know, and I could say, yeah, well, that's where that's coming from. And I've
Mhm.
most likely been down this road with that same person, you know, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
or this same similar situation in the past. And now I can move out of it. But yeah, it's like that fear that then eventually once we move out of it and we can create that boundary is like, you know, are they going to be mad at me? Are they going to think that I'm not doing the right thing? Are they going to judge me? Right. And like you said, it's because we're judging ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we're
It's
saying,
a failure thing, right? It's like, what am I, you're marking yourself up like against, you know, you're measuring and saying, okay, in the fear of, well, if I feel that if this consequence happens or this thing happens, that means I have failed, you know, and
yes,
there is a real fear of failure. I have it all the same time, like on so many things. I'm failing my kids. I'm failing my marriage. No, I'm failing all that. I'm failing myself. And then you're like, calm down. It's really fine. You're not. It's good.
no, you're not.
But,
You know, that fear of failure is so interesting because the flip side of that, which is the same thing, is fear of success.
oh yeah.
I feel like I very often sabotage myself
Oh yeah.
because of fear of success. Because then what? Then what am I going to be asked to do? How am I going to be asked to show up? Or
And
you
can
know,
I do that?
can I do that? Exactly. So that's very interesting to think about. That maybe it's not really fear of failure; it's really fear of success, or it could be one at the different times, one or the other. But so like I don't know. I feel like I kind of manage the fear. Like my greatest fear, I don't know if you know what your greatest fear is, Jenny, but my greatest fear is dying with regret. It's laying on that deathbed and knowing that I did not love
Yeah.
as well as I could have,
Yep.
as compassionately, as open-heartedly
Mhm.
as I possibly could because I was in fear. For me, it's fear of loss.
Yeah.
You know, if I move too closely, I get too close to you, I get too emotionally intimate, I get too vulnerable with you, and then you leave. And this has happened
Yeah.
over and over, right? Lost
Mhm.
relationships, lost friendships, you know. So I think a lot of us have that experience. And then we're so afraid of it happening again
Mhm.
that we keep ourselves disconnected
Yeah.
by bringing it back to the connection piece of this show.
I think that's a big one. I think I've had that I think I've had that definitely earlier in my life in terms of like having that regret, and especially as many people as we have seen around us leave the world earlier, you know, than anticipated. I think I try really hard at that. I think at this point now, really my biggest fear is leaving my kids too early, leaving them not enough of like just the things, me, lessons, you know, what they need to survive in the world. That's currently my biggest fear is, you know, I'm like, if for nothing else, just let me stay around to help them build. Yeah.
So how do you manage that? Because I think all we're just doing all day long is managing this fear, managing this anxiety. Because like I said, I'm not sure that it's ever going to 100% go away because we have that instinct. We have a fear instinct in our brain. It's how we're using it, right? So it's not like the fear's ever, for me, I don't know, maybe someday it will. So how do you manage that when that comes up?
Here lately, one of the first I like I will ask the universe. I will, you know, and talk to God about it. Like, just, you know, like, I really, really hope that I can be here long enough, you know, whatever that looks like, to be able to just help them feel like they're stable in the world. And then the other part of that is to be conscious of the times that I have with them where there's moments of like teaching them something, you know, that I'm like, hey, listen, by the way, like really being in it and feeling like I will have left them some, you know, with whatever the situation is, you know, it's fighting with friends or, you know, talking about failing at things or whatever it is that I really, really try now. I'm very conscious. So that helps me feel better when I at least do that, when I'm present in that. And know that I am really being in the moment with telling them or trying to teach them, something. So that's a good thing. It helps me to be a little more cognizant of the opportunities I get to teach them something. I deal with almost everything, I think, by joking. So I halfway laugh, or I'll joke with them about things at times, just like, it's fine. Cause I'll be like, well, if the subject ever comes up, and I always tell them, mom and daddy aren't going to be here forever. I kind of lightheartedly, and I'm like, and you're going to be good. Like, no matter how long that is, like, you will be good. You guys will be good because you're learning how to be in the world. A lot of that might be just convincing myself, right? Sandy the other day was like, I don't like to start thinking about people dying because I think of one person dying and then I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to die. And I tell her, I'm like, well, the truth is we are. I try to kind of, even for myself, I think, talk myself into a different perspective about it, of like looking at it in a different way and also being at peace about it and letting go of, and the realization, it's just the truth of the matter. We see it around us. You've gone through it. You've lost your brother and people in an untimely manner. Some of them, by things they have added to their own lives or scenarios. And some people, it's random. It's like, what? You got what kind of cancer? Like, what the heck? From what? Yeah. So I think for me, dealing with that has been having to look at my fear of what it really is. I'm like, well, what are you really afraid of? What is it that you're afraid of? Well, I'm afraid that they will feel like they can't handle the world without me. And it's like, okay, well, what if they can? And I play that kind of devil's advocate in my mind. Like, what if they are strong enough? Maybe there's a great chance they are, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe they are, so I've been trying to do that. It's almost like having to play devil's advocate with myself in a positive way to try to find the silver lining of it, or find a healthy acceptance of like, hey, you can't say, if you're really going to be afraid of death, like it's the one thing is coming. Or whether it be that you're afraid, I'm not afraid to leave for myself. It's about them, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, well, you also have to have faith that on the daily, don't focus on that. Focus on what you're giving them on the daily, that you're giving them something that's going to build them a little more today than they were yesterday. And if you're here for 100 years or you're here for 70 or whatever it is, you can be like, all right, well, I left them they're a little more prepared today than they were yesterday for this world. As much
That's
as
all you can do. That's all you have control over, is how you're being with them right now and being conscious, cognizant, like you said, of that, being in that moment and being like, yes, I'm afraid of, this is how I can kind of combat that. Like, I am leaving, if God forbid you left earlier than necessary. But I did a good job. I know that I spent that time. I know that I actually gave it my all. I did the best I could. Yeah. And I love you said something that reminded me, my therapist. So I worked with her for a long time on this whole fear of loss thing.
Yeah.
What she said was, and what you were saying is, she said, okay, ask yourself, well, what if that's not true? But what if that's not true? So you're sitting here with this massive fear that something bad is going to happen, or, typically, something bad is going to happen. And ask yourself, but what if that's not true? What if that's just all me in my ego, really thinking that I know the future, or that I know how somebody's going to react?
Yeah. Or exactly. It's more of even if like, how do you know your kids just wouldn't be so incredibly resilient, even if that did happen? Like, we have no idea. People do it all the time. It happens all the time. And it is that. It's
just trusting the process, trusting the plan, trusting in other people's essence and their, not just strength, but their inner wisdom, their inner knowing, like they're going to be all right, and that you have loving people around them to support them, and you're setting this thing up. So it's not like, okay, let's just throw it out to the universe and leave it. No, of course you have to take action. No, you have to set the stage. Yeah, exactly. For certain things.
And to have just faith in the fact, again, it really simply comes down to, we think about, they say that fear is living that anxiety is living in the future and fear is living in the past, or depression is living in the past. I've heard that, but fear can also be that you're living in the future. Like, as simply as it is, what can we do right now? Like, okay, this thing, if it's something that I'm really afraid of, like right now, is that impacting me right now, or my kids right now, or my husband right now? No, it's like, all right, what can I do right now? Because that's the thing that's real, right? That's the thing that's real. But yeah, that fear also of even just my whole thing too is not leaving as my most authentic self.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to make
Before.
sure that I will
Yeah.
have like taken all this experience, and then that someone, like you talk about regret.
Mm.
I think I don't have a lot of regrets because I've had an adventurous life. Like I have gone and followed my heart and my spirit at times where it got chaotic and whatever else, but I got to it. I've experienced so many amazing things. So I don't have a ton of regret on that side, but I still know that I have not, and I don't want to say conquered, but slipped into that fully comfortable sense of knowing myself 100%. I think I know myself better than I ever have, but
Sure.
I'm not
I
there.
don't think we ever get there. Like in our last show we did together, stumbling into authenticity,
Yeah.
which was amazing. And the truth is, we're going to just experience as life. We're going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we can ever really be like, okay, I know myself and this is it. This is it. I'm doing like making like a box thing where like, this is it. I'm locked in. This is who I am. It's just not a thing. I feel like it's not even possible because it's not even something to reach for. It's just doesn't exist because we're constantly growing and changing
all the time. Yeah.
So hopefully by the end, our end days, we'll be able to say, I searched the nooks and crannies. I was, honest with myself. I honored the things that came up. I was able to shift and change with the wind and not be so resistant and held because of fear.
Right. Or not experience something because we were afraid. To look back and go, man, I didn't get to feel the whole thing of that because I blocked it out because I was afraid of what the consequence or what I would fail at or what you know what I mean? Whatever those
the
uncertainty of going, man, I wish I would have just I wish I would have pushed past that fear and let myself experience that in this lifetime. Like to not have fear hold us back from getting all the juicy, wonderful things of life, because it is the one thing it will stop that in an instant, or there's times where we know we could move on towards or grow towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's absolutely been there in my life and done that where I've prevented myself from further walking down a path because I'm like, nope, no way I'm good enough to do that. I'm going to just keep going this way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely. That is something I want to be able to, at least with myself, look back and go, oh, you at least tried to push through that fear. You did work through that to a degree. And as you were talking about no such thing as fearlessness, it was weird because I think you're right in that degree. And then I was like, maybe we've been thinking about it wrong the whole time. Like maybe it's not fearless, like without fear, but maybe it's fearless. Like
Yes, that's fear.
Just less of it.
Managing it. So like when we say the word managing it, it's for me, I put it in perspective. Mm-hmm. What is the reality? What is the reality of this? Is this just my conditioned thinking, my programming, my, trauma, my grief that created fear of more loss? So when I can like expose it, as you were talking before, you had said something and I wrote down exposing the fear. Like when we're talking about it with your kids, that you're going to die someday, right? Like I know there are people in my life who feel like kids should be sheltered from any sort of mature conversation like that.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's completely wrong.
It becomes too much of because then you get it all at once. Like, but we almost are wired that we walk around not realizing this is the most natural thing we're all going to experience besides being born. And it's the one thing we have in common. There is no altering it. You know what I mean? Like it is happening. Yes. And if we from a young age, and I joke with them, I'll be like, oh, you guys, whenever it is, whenever, I'm like, oh, you'll laugh every time you see peanut butter because mommy just eats the shit out of peanut butter all the time. Like I hope that I plant seeds like that now, that later on, that they're like, oh yeah, look, we saw it. Oh, look it, there's 333. Mommy would have loved that, or whatever. Like it's almost like a preparation, but because I think our lives would be a lot less fearful because the ultimate fear, right? That's the end. That's the big game. That's the varsity. The big one up here is the death thing. That's the one thing we know it's up there. And for a lot of people, it is. It's humanly the first thing. So if we could go through our lives automatically knowing like, well, what is that going to do for me to fear? It's going to happen. Like it's happening at some point. what does that do for me to walk around having the fear of, oh God, but how will I deal with it when it happens? It's like, well, we've been doing it for generations. This human race, the race in general, the world, the earth does it constantly. The trees do it every year. Like this is the cycle, this is what we do. How do we look at it differently in a way that we're not just like held hostage by that?
Yeah.
It's a very cumbersome fear to
Oh,
think
yeah.
like, it's all over, it's done. And it's like, well, but it's actually, it's the most natural part of this freaking journey and the process. Yeah, it's
Yes,
good.
we're so taught to fear it because we don't know what's on the other side. It's
Right.
again that uncertainty, but it is the most, like you're saying, like it's just part of life. So accepting the natural cycle of life.
Yep.
And for me, I can get through that fear by remembering that like energy doesn't die, it just
Ever.
changes form. So even if you're not here, you're still here. I could still be connected to you. I don't really ever truly have to sever that connection
Mhm.
to you.
No.
I mean, I feel like I'm closer to my brother now than when he was
Do
alive.
you really? That's
This morning, I don't know, my kids were talking about like how smart they are or something.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, we did something. And then the song Jeremy on Lithium came on, Pearl Jam Jeremy
Nice.
came out. And I was like, oh, there's your uncle. And I felt like him saying that he was saying to me, you girls can thank me for that because I was really smart.
You're welcome. And you're welcome.
Exactly. You're welcome. You got it from me, and I felt like, yeah, that is something that he would say, but I just felt that come through me. And it was just so automatic, just like downloaded like so quickly. But,
and you made a choice.
So-
That's the other thing. You made a choice to let that enter your reality differently today because you weren't afraid. Because that's the other thing. I know a lot of people who have lost loved ones, the pain of it still terrifies the shit out of them that they close off. They've closed off.
yes.
Because to even think of that person, they
Absolutely.
feel like there's no way I'm going to be able to stand on my feet if I continue to just even think about them not being here. But with that being said, that fear and that tension of that will also block any of like that kind of connection that could be out there. Like you let it in today. You let him come into your reality today because you weren't, you know what I mean? Like you're not afraid anymore of the pain of what that loss has been.
I'm not. I'm really not. And that's what my whole deal has been about. My book and everything has just been about that. And like, people have asked me like, well, then how do you move through that? Like, how do you actually move through that massive fear, the big kahuna, like we're talking about, this death? And it's unconditional self-worth and it's emotional security.
Yeah.
And I need the self-worth to then get the emotional security where it's coming from myself. It's emanating from something within where I know that I'm going to be okay, that I
You're
don't
the
need
source.
that other person.
You're the source. It's coming from you. You're the battery pack. It's coming from within you. It's not having to come from that person physically being here, or even at times where we have to grieve. Like you said, we grieve the loss of a relationship. The relationships evolve all the time, and or divorce or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's like you were saying, even friendships or different things happen where they evolve, where we are at a point where it's like, all right, still though, that energy pack, that place, I can still energize I can still survive with what's going to flow through me without having that, even if it's a physical connection or my family members here. Yeah. I mean, that's and right, what a weird deal that's like a mystery for us. What a weird deal that maybe not though. Maybe that's part of the whole thing. It's part coming here to remember and rediscover that. They're like, hey, you're okay.
Yeah.
And the peace that's in you is always eternally connected to God or, like to the universe, just like everything else that's here. It all started, we're all made up of the same shit. That freaks me out. When somebody made that, it was my nephew, Jonah, because he's so smart. I'm like, again, I'm like, okay, whatever, rocket scientist, literally, he's a rocket scientist. He sends satellites.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he does now.
That's so cool.
Master's degree in mechanical engineering from School of Mines. Yeah, he works for a company that sends the satellites into the sky. And hearing him say, well, like, no, we are literally made up of the exact same thing the stars are, like literally.
Yep, made of stardust.
All made up of the same stuff, and it's like that. That's amazing when you think about it as a planet, just our planet in general, the whole energetic thing with our planet happening. That we're all made up of the same thing. So And that's a big picture scope. Sure. That's easy to go, oh yeah, let's look at the 30,000 foot view of that. But that's the truth, you know? So how do we allow ourselves to go, I am but a piece of this like massive thing. How do I?
And I will always belong. I will always be a part of it. And you will always be a part of it. And he and she will always be a part of it, even if you're not physically here in this dimension.
Exactly.
We're still the same. You're in me. And maybe that's why after my brother died, I saw this really weird, like almost like an outer body experience where it was like, it was out of body experience. I never know if it's outer body or out of body. Anyway,
either way,
either one. You guys know what I mean. I felt like a part of his soul or his essence, like came within me, like was like in me. And I think that was what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think that was, and I didn't realize it till like right now. Thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a feeling of we're still connected. Like we're all part of one another. There is no separation in any, not just, you know, on this like esoteric, you know, like physically too. Like we're all made of this matter that makes up the earth and these particles and all this. Like we're all the same thing. And that's probably why it hurts.
Oh God.
When that person leaves, because there's this kind of severing, even though there is no real severing.
It's like right now I'm looking outside and the sky is blue. You know, it's the sky. The sky is the sky. It's blue right now. But the interaction of things changing, those clouds coming in, temperature dropping, the energetic field changing can bring clouds, can bring thunder, can bring lightning. Anytime we have an interaction with one, any relationship we have, our energies are interacting. You know what I mean? And to have, it's almost like the change in scene where you're going from somebody physically being here to somebody not, where it's still the sky, it's still the same situation, but your interaction with them and the energy, that energetic exchange that happened now takes on another form. And it's like, you feel that. And that's kind of scary at times. It's refreshing too at times, right? Like sometimes when the weather changes, you're like, oh, wow, okay, we're going to get some rain or whatever. But it can also be freaking terrifying. And I think that's probably the case, like when we lose people that way, because we're all of a sudden in a different landscape with them. But you're right. I'm sure that whatever it was, the connection and the energetic exchange you guys have, that then becomes like an album within you. Like that's the thing that activates. It's like this whole connection we had our whole lives, this thing we did becomes that beautiful, energetic album that you get to have inside of you, you know?
Yes. Talking about this stuff, you know, like I was saying, like our society teaches us to fear death so much, like most of society. I know there are places where they celebrate it, you know, but it's like exposing this stuff, talking about this stuff, getting it into the light is going to take the fear away a little bit. It's going to lessen the fear because anything that you shine the light on, you know, just the burden becomes less. When you share, when you talk, when you explore these spaces, they can't grow, right? Fear grows in the dark, basically. And it's really all here. It's all here. Most of our fear is not rational at all, but it has to be honored and it has to be respected because it is true for us, right? Whether it's real or not doesn't matter as much as how you're perceiving it and how it's affecting you, you know? So talking about this stuff is really, it's huge. I love that. I just love that we do this. And I just love that, like, we go there and we talk about this stuff, but sorry, I digressed a little bit.
No, it's true. And it's awesome because I think, well, because what's the other alternative, right? It's very easy for us to get, we can create an entire reality in our own minds all the time. And fear is,
we do it all day long. We all do it all day long. We think we know, we're putting these assumptions on people and things and like, just be, right? That's the whole, like, just thing. Sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
No, it's true. I think it's like, we can literally build a little bit. It's like when I watch my kids play, Roblox and they're building all their little, oh, look at this. And Steele will be like, check it out, mommy. I built a whatever. Look at this tower, you know, they're building things. It's not real, but they're sitting there building it. And I feel like that's exactly what we can do in our own minds. And it's like, fear is an incredible building block. You can create a whole fucking community. You're like, look at this castle of fear I built. It's amazing. Okay, there's a moat.
Indestructible. You're not getting through this castle of fear.
I have the most amazing building blocks of fear. Yeah, you're like, look over here. Here's a Starbucks made out of fear. Here's the little town and post office. I swear that's what it is. And we can do that. And if we don't stop, obviously we have to go to that internal place, I think, where meditation, which I still, it's another thing I hope to, like, by the time I hope I'm 106 and I hope I'm, old and walking around in Converse and like with pink hair or something cool like that. But having a practice of a real consistent practice of meditation that I'm really able to anchor into that is do enough practice that I can anchor into it, because I mean, I work at it now, but it's real sloppy. It's real freaking sloppy. I do not have a disciplined practice of meditation. And I know that in itself could literally take the air out of so many things that I might have fear about just by calming my monkey mind.
That's it. That's the answer. The answer to so many of our problems, of the world's problem, is meditation. It's meditation, because we quiet enough to kind of put our egos on the side for a minute, which is what fear is made out of. It's from the ego. And we can quiet that for 30 seconds, 3 minutes, whatever it is, long enough for something else to come in and just, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm safe in this energy, and I trust this place. I trust that. Right? That's what this all comes down to. I think it's just either not trusting ourselves to show up in these deaths or these scary things in life in the way that we want to, or, trusting that things are going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had a sponsee once who said, such bad things happen in life, babies die and there's wars, how do I trust or, find this relationship with this higher power that makes all these things happen? And I was like, first of all, it doesn't. First of all, that's not the job of the higher power. And second of all, if it's working for you, that's great. It's just a connection to something that you can feel safe in, that is there for you no matter what. Mm. That is unconditional love, that is unconditional worth, that values you, that says you have a part to play here, that you belong here, and that no matter what happens, I'm going to walk you through. It gives my higher power, I can speak for myself, gives me, holds my hand. It gives me the courage to step into those scary places, right? I love the phrase, do it scared. Right. And it's you got to do it anyway. If you're waiting for the day that the fear is just going to go away for you to act or take some kind of action, it's never going to happen. So you have to go into that place scared, and you bring that higher power, you bring that spirit with you. Mm-hmm. And then once it's over, you can look back and say, I was so afraid of that, and it actually turned out okay. Frame of reference, huge. Look back on things that you thought were so scary. Yeah. And probably made you better or wiser or worked out better than you ever even could have imagined.
It just dawned on me now. I remember being like, how am I going to deal with this childbirth situation? Pregnant. And a sense of being like, oh yeah, this is going to be the most painful scenario. You're in there. Of course, we're wired to naturally be able to do it. But I remember coming out of that too. I'd never felt, it was the most painful thing I've ever, 100%. Never have I had more physical pain. Never. But then there was a point that kicked in of getting through that. I came out of that situation feeling literally stronger and more resilient and empowered than ever any other single time of my lifetime. And thinking if we were able to do that again, like you were talking about with this, your higher power holding your hand to walk you through, that fear can also be honestly the greatest alchemizer, right? It can transform you. That thing, that place literally can transform you. You come out of that different when you're able to go through it. Yes. You can come out of that transform, turn into something else. Yeah. Under those fearful, dark places. If we know what to do with the fear, I guess, right?
And you might not be able to even put it in perspective. You might have to go through something scared shitless. Like, oh my God, I have anxiety. I'm walking into this room, or I'm getting up on this stage, or making this presentation, or this person has 6 months to live. You may never get to that point, like even while you're going through it. But then after, like you're saying, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I did that. So if you're never feeling that fear, are you ever able to feel that empoweredness after?
Right.
So if I could handle everything and I wasn't afraid of anything and I was fearless, where would I grow? Like, you need the dark to experience the light. You need the night for the day, like all of that. Like, you need the opposite. You need the bad day to know the good day. I need those feelings of fear and anxiety to a certain degree, not to the point where it paralyzes me. Like I'm saying, you still got to go through it.
Yeah.
I'm not a proponent of saying, oh, allow your fear to keep you stifled and small. That's not what this conversation is about. This is allow your fear to empower you, allow your fear to make you step into those spaces that you thought you never could, by, acknowledging the fear and not trying to just push it away and repress it. And, oh, I don't have that. I don't have that. You're a human being. You probably have that. But that and taking that and then saying, okay, what tools can I use? Can I trust? Can I look back on things that I've done? Can I just do it? I always say Nike has the best slogan on the face of the planet. And AT&T, we're all connected. I thought about that the other day. I was like, that was so like visionary, right? That was like, yes, but just do it. Like, do it no matter how afraid you are, no matter how your heart is pumping out of your chest. Show up for yourself. That's what this all comes down to. Is trusting yourself to not self-abandon and run away from the fear. Run towards it. Life is, to me, is this growth, is this perpetual upward. Sometimes we take some steps back.
Yeah.
It's the evolution. And the only way we're going to evolve as a species, like we've been talking about a lot here lately, and we have an awesome show coming up for you guys next. Oh my God, guys have to tune in on June 7th. We're calling it Connecting with High Frequency Energy. You're going to learn so much. If you're in this world, which most likely you are if you're listening to us, you're going to love this show. And we give you some and Vicky helps us and we talk about these valid tools to how to step in to raise your frequency. Anyway, this is part of it. This is saying, okay, this fear is low energy, right? We can't stay in it. We cannot stay in this low frequency energy at all, but it's there. It's there. So let's acknowledge it. Let's expose it. Let's talk about it. And then let's just move through it so that we can look back and say, holy shit, look what I did. And then that's going to empower you and it's going to grow your resilience, like you're saying, and your character, your trust in yourself. So all the emotions part.
Let's figure out, at least in my mind, what I would hope for everyone out there and for myself is to be able to learn how to use it as a tool, to be able to use it instead of having it use me. Similar to the frequency of money. It's like we need it. It's a necessary thing. Fear is too. It keeps us alive. So how do we look at it differently? How do we put it in a different file in our minds? And how do we use it differently? Because it's a very dense, but what happens with dense things? It's like, that's where transformation can happen. That's where things can evolve. That's how diamonds are formed. Talk about density. You know what I mean? It's like, that's where that process happens, almost leaning into it. How do we figure out how to lean into it? Let it do its thing to help us evolve, not to hang on to it, to be in it. Let it shift things and move out of it as this newer version of ourselves. And can we tuck that away then? Can we go, all right, can we check that part off? Can we find a way to just be in it? Because when we avoid it, then we just come back to it. And we avoid it, and it just comes back. Life is
going to come back in a different way. These are the lessons that you're put here to learn.
Exactly.
They're not going away until you learn it.
Yes. So when we sit there and go, oh my God, women did this again, whatever your thing is, because we all have our shit. It's, oh, I'm in a bad relationship again. I'm in debt again. Oh my gosh, I'm eating crap food again. Whatever the thing is, right? It's like the universe has a way. Yeah, because we're meant to continuously evolve. And if you're at a place, it's just like saying, well, in the day, when kids used to get held back, they don't anymore. But it was like, if you didn't pass what you needed to pass for first grade, we don't want you going to second grade, without knowing all your basics of first grade. Similar deal with our souls, I believe. So it's like those things we fear. If it's like, yes, it's come to you and you're afraid, but because you're being given this opportunity to learn from this, to be changed from this. And if you're like, nope, not going to do it, I'm afraid, I'm not doing it, and you walk away, well, guess what? It's going to come back around in another way to you. And so I think a lot of the patterns we continue to have in our lives, and we sit back and go, oh my gosh, it's, if we're in a place of this always happens to me, a lot of it is our own fears, us just not sitting in our own fears and being in a scenario or a situation to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, exactly.
We repeat it.
Exactly. So Jim, my husband, Jim, had some kind of situation with this guy on the road yesterday. A guy like now, kind of, the guy was like, Jim was driving and then this guy was coming up to a stop sign and he was going like, Jim said like 20 miles an hour, almost was going to hit him. So Jim honked and I was like, like freaked out. And Jim didn't really react, and he was like, it makes me like not even want to like go out. It makes me like not even want to like be in the world because I don't want to be around these people that have this negative energy, and all this stuff because it's hard to not react.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, talking about like, we can't hide from it. We cannot hide from these difficult situations that place us in fear. He was in fear for his physical safety.
Sure.
The kids were in the car.
Oh God.
The girl, like he was in fear. There was a physical threat. Absolutely. So, I understand why, like his reaction, he may have like threw his hands back up at the guy, I don't think he was, like the Dalai Lama. And at the same time that I came home and he told me that, our girlfriend Vicky sent me this message kind of like out of the blue. She gets these downloads. We all get these downloads. And
not just out of the blue, by the way.
She sent, we weren't like having a conversation.
I freaking love Vicky. You're the best, Vicky.
She just like felt it. It came to her and she sent it to me. And I want to read you guys what I was like, I'm going to work that into the show. But I'm like, no, I'm just going to read it because this is what she wrote. All situations now are on purpose to help us grow into the next version of ourselves as leaders, to challenge our abilities to become non-reactive participants and to respond with our own truth as we are also respectful as we can be of others' viewpoints. And I just love that. And then I thought about the show today and I was like, this non-reactive participant, which is what we're being challenged to do, is to step into. Now I'm sort of taking this out, not just personal fears, and taking this out into the world. Like if you guys follow me, I'm kind of taking it out into like the collective and how we interact with other people from this fear-based place. The reaction, the poor reaction is fear. That's why we're reacting. We would not be reacting in a aggressive way if there wasn't some kind of fear there.
Yeah.
Right. So our job as people who are trying to raise our frequencies, usher in this new earth, is to see it, acknowledge this rise, because most likely that's going to be the default. Until you do this, I think for a really, really long time, or you're like a monk or something, you're most likely going to have that default of, especially if you have trauma, especially if you have trauma in your story.
Yeah, which is most people to a degree. Most people. Some levels.
If you just look at the parenting and what was acceptable in parenting, like back in the day, which most of us listening are probably in our generation, like that stuff was actually traumatic, which is why we don't do it to our kids anymore. But they didn't know any better, right? All that, no blame, all that, generational stuff. But anyway, it still left a mark. So we each are carrying a little bit, so that response, that fear response, is going to make you want to scream back, yell back, flip the bird, do whatever, because you're trying to protect yourself.
You're
so
leveling the playing field, I think, too, right? In a way, you're leveling the playing field. Someone comes at you with something, you're coming back because it's like, great. No, I got, it's pulling out, it's getting ready to pull out your armor and your sword. Like, oh, you're pulling out yours, I got mine, let's go. Like, it's that, right? And at the end of that, it's a threatening scenario. So go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, it's great. It's conversation. That's exactly what it is. We're protecting ourselves. Yeah. Saying, no, you're coming at me. No, you're not going to get me. You're not going to get my kids. You're not your car. You're going to stay over there because you're threatening me. And yes, if there's a physical threat, of course you have to protect yourself in some way. But the majority of the threats we have are really stemming from some other place. It's not really even what's going on in that exact moment. So feel it, feel the fear, know where it's coming from, get honest, say, where is this fear really coming from? And do I have to react that way? No. What's my duty and obligation to myself, my own personal soul growth, and the evolution of the planet and the collective? I feel like I have an obligation to like rise above and to not listen. You can stay over there and spin your wheels all day long.
We have an option, right? It's like we are in, what is my duty and obligation? That's what you were saying. What can I do? I know that I have a choice of how I get the choice of how this reaction is going to go. It's just like I mix oil and water, there's a reaction. Science tells us you mix things, there's a reaction. And how your temperature of that, you have control of what comes out of it.
Really, we always say that we're powerless over other people and we have no control. And yes, for the most part, we are.
Yeah.
But I fully believe that if you do something to me and I choose a peaceful reaction or no reaction at all, right? If I choose no reaction at all, then yeah, you could be a psycho and you could just keep going at me, right? But eventually, if I don't play the game with you, you're going to stop because you're not going to get what you need out of me, right?
Getting the chemical reaction.
Exactly. So we have a lot more power in how these relationships are going in our life, or our just random interactions with strangers that are in this negative fear-based place, to either not react or react with love. Oh, this was great. A few years ago, I think Lila was a long time. She was almost 6 or 7 a while ago. Again, Jim had this was before all of his PTSD work. He had this like situation with this dude. They were like, the dogs were starting to like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
And he didn't react the best way that he wanted to. And he was like, he told me that Lila said right afterward, Dad, what if the only language was, hey, I love you? Right? From like a 6 or 7-year-old out of the mouths of babes.
Oh, yeah.
And that actually almost made it into my book. That got cut. But that was like I felt like profound from this child, and the solution. These children have the solution, by the way, because these kids are not yet tampered with, and they're just love. They're just love. They're just sweet and beautiful love. And could you imagine, like, say somebody comes up to you or you have an argument with somebody in the parking lot, and you just say, hey man, I love you. Peace be with you.
Yeah. I'm really sorry. Whatever's going on with you today, just know I love you.
Exactly. I love you. Peace. See you later. Walk away. The person's going to be like, what? And it might actually even make them question why they acted that way and say, why can't I do that? Why can't I be in that peaceful place and react from a place of love and kindness and compassion and tolerance and understanding and all that good stuff? So we have to be, she said, as leaders, it was to help us grow into the next version of ourselves as leaders. So many of us are charged with that duty, that obligation to become the leaders of love. Really, that's where we're going with all of this. So the fear, to bring it back, the fear that comes up is going to then hopefully spark this thought of, no, I'm going to react differently now. You can use the fear to really change and shift your neural pathways so that eventually it does become your new default.
And to let it still, and like I was saying, to use it, to let it be an indicator still. It was meant to be an indicator anyway, to help keep us alive. Well, now we have less things that threaten our physical, well, depending on how you look at it, but for the most part, for
the majority of people on the planet. Or in the United States, I should say. Maybe not on the planet.
Lifespan used to be, whatever, you got 35 years or whatever, you're out there in the plains doing your thing, like whatever that was. It's different now, but how do we use it? How do we go, oh, wait, it can still be a marker on my roadmap, but what can I use it as now? It's like, okay, well, it's an indication, it's an alarm, and okay, let me stop and figure out what's the choice I'm going to make. Because again, as energy comes in, we're putting it out, we're bringing it in, all of us, it's breathing, the whole universe,
all the time,
breathing all the time. We're breathing it in, we're breathing it out. So every single time you're having you're having an interaction like that, you have the ability, like you're saying, the outcome of it,
you have that choice.
Put back out. You have control over that. You have control over what you're going to mold that thing into and put back into the universe as we breathe it in. And as they say, what goes around comes around, all those things, all those simple terms, we talk about, It's not just like on the basic of, well, you got to be a good person and what goes out there. It is an energetic thing. It really is. So if we can use that fear as an indicator, as the gas light on your car when you know you're about to run out of gas. You know, we don't have to sit there and go, oh my God, I'm terrified. I might run out of gas. What if I, no, you go, oh fuck, I need to go to the gas station. Like, oh, that light means go to the gas station and refuel. Not let me panic right now. Let me stop the car. I got to stop the car right now because if I run out, oh my, no, it's let me go refuel. You know?
Yes.
And if we figure out how to do that and use it for that, step back a little bit and slow down and say, I'm afraid of this. Or I'm angry and realizing 9 out of 10, right? We're angry. We're afraid.
Always. Yes. I'd say 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Right.
Anytime there's anger or there's resentment, we learned that in the program. That's where I learned it.
Yeah.
There's identify the fear. Like there is something going on that you're afraid, we say afraid of not getting something you want or afraid of losing something that you have. There's many others, but those are typically the two main ones. Yes. Identify the fear. If you're pissed off about something, it's even if it's like, oh, they disrespected me. What's the fear? And you talked about it before, about the fear of you dying, like what's really underneath that, the fear that your children are not going to be able to take care of themselves, right? So if I'm afraid that somebody's or I'm angry that somebody's disrespecting me, what is that fear? I'm not worthy enough of their love and respect, or right? There's like just so many things that you could get honest about. I'm afraid that I'm like that person if it's a parent and whatever. There's so many different things, and it's specific for each one of us from our own experiences, but great point, Ginny. Yes. We're living in such volatile times because there's so much fear. That's how we know how to react.
So much of it is fear, and manufactured, a lot of it is not even real fear. It's like a sweet and low fear.
Splenda fear.
Splenda fear. Hey, there's no calories. Scare the shit out of you. It's not even real, but I'm going to scare the shit out of you anyway.
Yeah. Most fear is, again, from Recovery in the book, it says like boogeymen under the bed. They're not there. It's not real. It's not real. It's going on between your ears is where the fear is real. It's the only place where it's real. And if you look on the outside again, so you have to say, what is it true about this? What if that's not true? Or what's the reality of the situation? Am I really in this physical threat, or am I really threatened in some way that I'm going to lose something? Most likely not. But again, we run on that. We love that feeling that it releases some kind of adrenaline, and it releases some chemicals.
It also, in a weird way, and we're doing it now more than ever in our wonderful US of A that I am blessed and honored to be a citizen of. But it's like, it gives us a thing to belong to. Because if we're all afraid of the same thing, well, then you're a part of a tribe. You know, you guys stand for something because something's getting taken away, something's being implemented that's not right, whatever it is. Fear is like also in that sense. It's like, okay, well, if we're all afraid of the same thing, the power behind that too, oh my gosh. The same way, they say it in the Bible and everywhere else where there's 2 or more gathered in my name, that's a God thing, right? But anytime you have 2 or more people gathered with the same intention for any reason, you're doing yoga, I don't care what you're doing. There's 2 or more of you gathered in that theme. And if it is a fear, guess what that's going to do? It grows, it grows, it grows, it grows.
And then it becomes a reality. And then it becomes a reality.
Becomes real.
So our thoughts create reality. We live in that fear long enough. We have a lot of power. It could manifest.
Crazy right? Power we have, especially when there's more than one of us behind the same thing. So I
remember dealing with the fear of my husband dying, which was my main thing, was like, if I keep thinking about that, I'm going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. I could manifest it. His soul has his own path and will and all that. Like, could I be aiding in the possibility of that happening more? And I cannot believe you just said 2 or more of us are gathered, because last night I'm reading this book. It's called Sophia, the grandmother, Anna, the grandmother of Jesus. And it's about her daughter was Mary and then Jesus. But you never talk about who were Mary's parents, right? Like we don't know. We don't know that. We don't know that at all.
They don't ever
Anyway,
put names, or do we know her name was Anna? Or is that just
this is what this woman who wrote this book, her name is Claire Hartsong. This is what she downloaded kind of medium psychic wise. That they were the Essenes. You know, we talked about the Essenes.
I know about them. Yeah.
Jesus was an Essene. Yeah. And so I'm reading this book last night. Fascinating. And she said, where two or more of us are gathered.
Really?
Yeah. Energy can grow, this Jesus energy, this connection, this love, this peace, this all of that. And we say that also in recovery. Wherever there's two more of us, it's a meeting, you know? But that's what it is. And that's why when we stand up at the end and we hold hands, it's so powerful. Always, you know? So either the fear can be powerful or the love can be powerful. So what is your choice? What is your choice going to be, basically, is the question.
And and the crazy part is we need a little bit of all of it, and there's really no wrong choice. However, you're going to leave longer lasting impact when the choice is of love, because it can still grow. Fear tends to be, again, where that's the heaviness and the place of things dying or being choked out. That's what so it's like, if we can, and we need some of it, again, like you were saying, the light and dark, all those things, but the more times than not, even if it's 1% more a day, that we're able to come from the place of love. I've heard somebody else for references talking about fear. I'm waiting till the very end here. But did you ever read Conversations with God? Did you ever read? Yes. I friggin' loved that. That book floored me when I was like 21 living in LA. Floored me. But they talked about period, end of story, and talking about, God and the whole deal. But that everything all comes down to either love or fear. All things. All things, like in how you react and what you're doing. It's either coming from love or coming from fear. The things in your life, coming from love, coming from fear, and that God is love. Obviously, the idea is that the energy of God is love. It's the energy of love.
It is. Yeah.
Opposite of fear. It's literally the opposite of that. So I'm so glad that you picked this topic today. And I feel like it's so valuable to everybody. It's a perfect reminder for me, because we have a choice today, right? We have a choice on how we're going to spend this energetic currency, and also how we're going to let the outside, because everybody's got their thing. Everyone's got their little swirl of energy going on. And there's going to be times people are assholes. People are on edge. People are afraid of something else. But can I maybe make that extra effort today and to say, you know what, that person was really afraid. Like, I don't need to take this as an attack on me.
Yep.
I need to go, wow, man, that person's afraid. All right. That's still where they're at. Like, can I do that one more time today than I did yesterday?
Yeah. And you don't have to change that for them. You don't have to take their fear away or take their pain away.
Yes.
You just have to, you could choose to, you don't have to do anything. You could take this and just say, yeah, screw you girls. I'm not doing that. But if you choose to, you could, and this is kind of the challenge, like find like allow it to come up, feel it, allow yourself to feel it. Don't push it away. And then identify, where is this coming from, and believe in your power to diffuse it. You don't have to let it overtake you. You don't have to let it paralyze you. But how can you use it to either make the situation better, which is now like turning it into, okay, so is this true? Is this not true? And how can I now respond in love? Just use it as the indicator. Don't push it away. I'd really love to know if any of you do it. Please email us. Yeah, or put it in the comments. Come back to the show and throw it in the comments. I get those. Like, I want to know if this helped. Like, if you're doing that, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be on the lookout today for any kind of fear,
even if one time. Even if
and it's going to happen probably in the next hour, right? I'm going to like start editing this, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get my kid, school's ending. I'm not going to get this done. Like, it's just so crazy how ingrained it is, but
it is. And I'm going to at least look for a few more, because even if we just look for a few more of those moments where we let ourselves be free from it, like you said, 30 seconds even, that's
let yourself be free.
Yeah.
Let yourself be free. Let life be good. I say that all the time. Let life be good.
It's so true. We've got our little brief stint on this spinning rock is not long. Even if you are somebody who gets to be here 100 years, it's very fast.
Yeah. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do with today? What are we going to do right now in this moment to be able to look back and say, I used my time well.
Yeah. I used my time well and used the body I have to let all this energy come in and out. That's what we're doing. We're literally a little
vessels. Yeah.
Yeah. Just vessels where it's like a little cell tower or whatever, like a radio tower of what's coming in and out. And it's like, yeah, that's the whole point of it. What kind of music you going to let come out from the frequencies hitting, you know, we have a choice. So I'm definitely, I know for me today, I'm going to be searching for those opportunities to, even if 1% better today, that 1%. I can let myself not be held hostage by something that might scare me. Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out Jeannie's metaphor. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But you're just like, you're amazing metaphors today. They're like just popping out all over the place. I friggin' love it.
It's like where I function, my brain, I swear. That's like the way my brain processes is associating with other things. I've come to realize that. Like, that's how things get like organized in my mind if I can look at it as something else.
Jeannie's metaphor palooza. That's what it is. We're in metaphor palooza. That's it.
You guys only you give me once a month now, so I'm already like,
I know. You got to bring it.
The metaphors.
You're saving them up all month. I'm going to drop that one. Wow, this is awesome. I love you. And I'm so glad.
And I'm so glad to be able to connect still with our people here. And we love you guys so much. We really do. And I mean, this situation, even on its own, this little podcast, like, had we been too afraid to push through to it or been afraid of the changes that have been brought about? Because they are constantly. I've had like literal just shifts on a dime of my life and direction and where things are at. And I was telling Amanda earlier, there comes a point at certain times of being angry or being afraid of not fulfilling my purpose and then going, dude, no, if you could just sit in what you're doing, you're being led where you need to be anyway, like just flow with that, surrender to that, be in that river of life and just let ourselves, we're all flowing and going. And I'm so grateful that we still get to do that with you. That as much, I wish I could do this with you guys every show, every day, all the time. I wish me and Amanda could just record a podcast all day long.
That would be awesome.
It'd be amazing. But I know the times I do get to come and be here with you guys, it's incredible. It's always life shifting for me. And that was the whole point about this thing came about to begin with. So I'm grateful we still have the platform and the ability to do that, even with life's crazy twists and turns.
Yeah. I'm really grateful too that you have the time. So this is how it works. Like you say something and then I'm like, oh my God, yeah. I know we're running a little bit late here, but whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Just finished the Celestine Prophecy. I started it 2 months ago.
Did you love it?
I'll give it to you. Have you read it?
It's been 25 years. I need to read it again.
And and I was thinking about us because one of the insights there is about, there's 9 insights and they're like tracking it down in Peru. And it's like this whole 1992. And it's basically supposed to be prophetic of where the new earth, what we're coming into, the collective shift, the evolution.
So far in time.
I know. And one of the insights was what a lot of humans do is kind of suck energy from each other. That we're looking to get, or we're looking for somebody, we're taking that energy from them. But what we're supposed to be doing is giving energy to each other. And I thought about you and I and this show and why we have this connection, this chemistry, this energy. And it's because when you're talking, I'm trying to build you up. I don't even realize that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, yeah, Ginny, she's going to say something great, and then it helps me because then it raises my frequency.
For you. Yeah.
Yes. So it's to help you, but then it's also to help me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to point that out that I was reading it, it just clicked and I was like, that's what's going on here. So I hope other people can just do that. Just when you're talking to people, instead of the fear of what you're not going to get, or you're not going to be heard, or you're not, this fear, we could talk about this all day, but instead of thinking about yourself, think about, how can I lift this person up? It's going to get you right out of your own stuff. Really,
100% that it's almost, and the thing is what that does. And there's something almost intoxicating about that too. I know when I can genuinely make someone see in them what they don't see in themselves just by being a mirror and they see it. And I'm not talking shit or trying to fill them with smoke, like literally going, no, you have no idea what I see in you.
Yeah.
And to share it and to build somebody up like that, and you see that reaction happen for themselves, it naturally, they're going to put that back out. And that's the thing we don't realize by building up each other. That is the actual like natural path of that energy. Not so like saying, not so much being afraid to block it or stop trying to take from me or stop trying. No, when I build you up genuinely from here, you're going to naturally build me back up. Just like you're saying, you and I are able to do that. And we have that opportunity. You and I are in a safe spot to do it. We know each other well. You know, it's like, you're like my first death, but it's like, we have a chance to do that every single interaction of your day.
Yes.
Think about that. Anytime you're making eye contact with somebody, you are having an energetic exchange, period. A lot of opportunity.
Totally an opportunity. And when you can get out of your own, what is this person going to do to me? Or, you know, going into it with that fear-based perspective, when you can shift that into what can I offer here? What can I give? How can I be of service? That's going to eliminate your fear. Even getting on like a big stage and making a big presentation. When you're thinking about like, what am I offering here? What am I giving? How am I being of service? Making this about others. Like, I know whenever I share in a meeting, I used to get like nervous and I'd feel it like in my legs, and I've trained myself to, it's not about you. It's about the message that you're going to give to help somebody else.
Yep.
You know, and that's all that it is. So if we can flip that mentality of the ego-based, what am I getting? What am I losing? How am I going to look? Are they going to like me? All that fear to it's just a whole different energy. I could feel it. I could feel it just talking about this flip in this energy. But anyway, all right, we got to go. Or again, we recorded this late this week, so got some editing to do. We can get this out to you tomorrow. But I love you, Jenny. You're awesome.
I love you too. Thank you so much, and thanks for your flexibility this week. Again, you know, things change on a dime a little bit for me here lately, and it's all right. It's okay. Thanks.
I would jump through a hoop of fire to get you on this show, so you don't worry. It's gonna work. And all of you listeners out there, watchers, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We're grateful you're with us. We love you guys.
Yes. Go find some love today. Go be some love today.
Yes.
Find an opportunity to connect. We love you guys.
Bye.